I'm Ethan Goins,
I'm Austin Legati.
And I'm Philip Williams.
and our class project was the beautification of the twin post oaks located at the ABAC School Langdale Forest and Classroom in Chula, Georgia. Our stakeholder for this project is the school forest manager, Mr. Grant Rentz.
The purpose of the project was to mitigate soil compaction around the trees by keeping vehicles from parking underneath them. We did this by adding a permanent exclusion area around the trees. The other purpose of the project was to protect the root structure around the tree. We did not want to compact the root structures, damaging them at all. We wanted to keep a healthy root structure, and this would cause a healthy tree. Some history of the trees. The trees were left in front of the old home place when donated to ABAC. The trees are an icon to the property and are aesthetically pleasing to the property.
So the objective and goals of this project, like Philip said, was to essentially construct some sort of permanent barrier underneath these oaks with the goal of keeping vehicles from parking underneath them and compacting the soil. In the summer months, these trees have large canopies on them and provide for vast amounts of shade, which inherently people want to park under them to keep their vehicles cool. But like I said, this compacts the soil, which could potentially crush the roots, which we do not want for the tree. Minimizing root damage was the main priority, but we also wanted to make sure that this looked aesthetically pleasing to the people visiting and using the school forest, due to the fact that when you come to the school forest down the main drive headed towards the classroom or the shop, this is one of the main things you will see.
For a brief description of this permanent barrier, we used landscape timbers as the perimeter with dimensions of 24 by 16 foot. And to secure this exclusion area, we used 1 foot rebar pieces driven through them. And then later on, we filled in the exclusion area with landscape rocks to make it aesthetically pleasing to the eye.
For the construction of our project, our materials consisted of a sawzall, an impact drill, shovels and rakes, landscape rocks, landscape timbers, rebar, and a hammer. We used the sawzall to cut rebar into 1 foot sections. We had about a 10-foot piece of rebar, so we had 10 pieces of rebar. And we also used the sawzall to cut the landscape timbers to desirable lengths. We then laid out the landscaping timbers into the dimension of 24 feet by 16 feet and drove the rebar through the timbers into the ground with a hammer securing them. We used the impact drill with a drill bit to drill holes in desirable places in the landscape timbers to make it easier to drive the rebar into them. Once the perimeter was constructed, landscaping rock was filled into the perimeter and spread evenly with the rakes and shovels. Once completed, we came back a few weeks after to weed the exclusion and to redistribute the landscape rocks.
So this is phase one of the project. As you can see here, we went through and got all the sticks up that might have fallen from the tree and other debris that might have accumulated over the years. We also leveled out the area so that our rocks would lay evenly along with the landscape timbers. Mr. Rentz advised us that he wanted a 13-foot clearance from the black chain link fence to the edge of our border so that his tractors with its harrows could get through and other vehicles that might travel up and down this road on the daily.
This picture here displays the landscape timbers interlocked together in order to make them more stable and secure, allowing for a more permanent barrier.
The top section was cut into three separate pieces. One piece was cut at a smaller dimension so we can interlock them into the bottom, making it one secure piece. And in this picture, this is our phase 3 of the project. We filled in the perimeter with landscape rocks. This is a picture of it a few weeks after we filled it. As you can see, weeds started to protrude through the rocks, and so we came back out and leveled them back, or pulled the weeds, and then we leveled the rock back out with shovels and rakes and made it even.
So this picture here is when we went back and picked all the weeds and redistributed the landscape rock back to a back even.
Some problems we ran into with this project were that initially we were supposed to use 25-foot telephone poles provided by the YAL. However, our stakeholder, Mr. Rentz, decided to go with landscape timbers instead. And also, we were supposed to use topsoil to fill in the interior of the exclusion zone and plant local native plants to make it more appealing to the eye. But instead, Mr. Rentz decided to go with landscape rock, I think because easier to obtain. And also with the landscape rocks being used, it'll reduce the risk of fire scars on the oaks in case of spot fires, given that the two oaks are located fairly close to two burn units just north of the Twin Oaks.
This is our budget table. This is our supplies, our landscape timber, rebar, landscape rock, shovels, rakes, impact drill, sawzall, and hammer. For our landscape timbers, we used 20 of them. Mr. Rance ordered quite a bit of them, but we only used 20 of them. They were $4.60 a board, which came out to be $92 total. For the rebar, we used a 10-foot section, cutting it up into 1-foot pieces. This cost about $10. The landscape rock, we used 2 tons of it. It came out to be $191. However, Mr. Rentz ordered about 9 tons, but he used the other 7 tons for another project. And then we used the shovel, rakes, impact drills, and sawzall, and the hammer. And they're all provided by Mr. Rentz. Our total cost came out to be $293. And for our project budget, we had to keep it under $500. So we successfully kept the project under budget.
So overall, we as a group would say that we think this project was successful. We think we were able to hopefully preserve the root and structure while trying to keep people from parking underneath these magnificent oaks. We think the border is appealing to the eye, given that, like I said earlier, this is the first thing you see when you come into the parking area in front of the classroom or heading towards the shop. We also think that our landowner or our stakeholder was happy with our project.
Some future ideas that YAL students could use for this project, or they could later on add native plants if they wanted to further beautify it. And also they could construct some sort of poster within the perimeter of the exclusion area that would display characteristics and a brief history of the sand oaks, and maybe also a bench could be added so that the students could sit under the trees, relax, and just take in the beauty of the school forest and area.
In this photo, this is our last day on the school forest doing our project. You can see Austin back here taking the last of the weeds, throw them out over the fence, and this is me giving a big thumbs up because we've completed our project.
So this picture is taking a few steps back, taking in the scenery of the magnificent oaks, along with our border that we installed down here with the landscape timbers and the landscape rock. This brings our presentation to an end. We would like to thank our stakeholder, Mr. Grant Rentz, our professor, Dr. Lane, and the ABAC Foundation for allowing us to use this property for educational purposes. Thank you.
Thank you.